Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, India's Minister of External Affairs, Subramaniam Jaishankar, says the Palestinians have been denied a homeland, underlines the importance of a two-state solution. Israel asks the US to reschedule a meeting on Rafah military plan that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had cancelled after the US did not veto a UN Security Council resolution on Gaza ceasefire. Audio from black box data recorder shows that a pilot of the cargo ship that knocked down a bridge in the US had radioed for tugboat help. Divers recovered 2 bodies. Investigation may take up to 2 years. And Russia doubts Islamic State hand in the Moscow concert hall attack. Death toll rises to 143, 95 still missing. India's Minister of External Affairs, Subramaniam Jaishankar, has said that the Palestinians have been denied their homeland. He reiterated India's support for a two-state solution to address the Israel-Palestinian conflict. He made the remarks during his visit to Malaysia.
On the one hand, what happened on October 7th was terrorism. On the other hand, nobody would, countenance the deaths of innocent civilians. Countries may be justified, at least in their own minds, in responding. But you cannot have a response which does not, every response must take into account something called international humanitarian law. And the fact is that whatever the rights and wrongs of the issue, there is the underlying issue of the rights of the Palestinians and the fact that they have been denied their homeland.
Israel has asked the White House to reschedule a high-level meeting on military plans for Gaza's southern city of Rafah. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had previously cancelled the visit after the US did not veto a Gaza ceasefire resolution adopted by the United Nations Security Council on 25th March.
The Prime Minister's office has agreed to reschedule the meeting dedicated to Rafah. So we're now working with them to find a convenient date that's obviously going to work for both sides. But his office has agreed to reschedule that meeting that would be dedicated to Rafah, which is a good thing.
The US says that it believes that the hostage talks with Israel and Hamas are not over yet. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that Washington, D.C. sees an opportunity to continue pursuing the release of the hostages.
The hostage negotiations we do not believe are over. We do not believe they've come to an end. We believe that there is an ability to continue to pursue the release of hostages, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Meanwhile, tensions persist on Israel's border with Lebanon, with the Israeli army releasing a video on Wednesday showing what it claims to be a strike on a terrorist cell at Nahura inside Lebanon. Spain on Wednesday airdropped 26 tons of humanitarian aid to Gaza. The operation, carried out in coordination with Jordan and co-financed by the European Union, involved 2 Airbus A400 military planes dropping more than 11,000 food packets. Footage released by the Spanish Foreign Ministry showed crates of supplies leaving an aircraft ramp and heading towards the ground via parachutes. Moving on in other news, Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs Dmytro Kuleba has arrived in New Delhi. In a short while from now, Minister Kuleba will lay a wreath at Rajghat in India's capital, New Delhi, to pay homage to Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. On Friday, he will hold talks with India's Minister of External Affairs, Subramaniam Jaishankar, on the bilateral partnership and regional and global issues. The Ukrainian minister will also hold talks with India's Deputy National Security Advisor, Vikram Misri, and engage with members of the business community. And ahead of his visit, Minister Kuleba said that Ukraine sees India as an important global power.
This will be my first visit to the country and the first visit of a Ukrainian foreign minister to India in 7 years. The aim of this visit is to strengthen the Ukrainian-Indian relationship. Ukraine sees India as an important global power with a powerful international voice. We are confident that close cooperation will benefit both our nations.
Minister Kuleba welcomed India's participation in the reconstruction of Ukraine.
India is welcome to cooperate, to engage with Ukraine on economic projects now, and of course to engage in the reconstruction of Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine continued with the attacks on each other. Moscow claims to have launched strikes on targets, including the storage points of drones used by Ukraine, while Ukraine said that it had repelled multiple Russian offensives and launched airstrikes on Russian positions. The Ukrainian army attacked Russian military personnel and military equipment, hitting important targets such as the Russian air defense system. Earlier, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine visited the fortifications in the country's northeastern Sumy region, inspecting trenches, dugouts and firing positions on Wednesday. Ukraine has stepped up construction of fortifications in recent months as it shifts its military operations against Russia to a more defensive footing. President Zelensky said that Ukraine's defensive constructions needed to be boosted and work on them accelerated in Ukraine's east. President Zelensky also visited Ukrainian soldiers at a military hospital and awarded them medals. Amidst reports of the West supplying F-16 fighters to Ukraine, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has said they will be shot down by the Russian forces if used. Speaking to the Russian Air Force pilots, Putin said that the US-led military alliance had expanded eastward towards Russia since the 1991 fall of the Soviet Union, but Moscow had no plans to attack a NATO member. The Kremlin accuses the US of fighting against Russia by supporting Ukraine with money, weapons and intelligence. It also says that the relations with the US have probably never been worse. A delegation of Russia's External Intelligence Bureau visited the North Korean capital Pyongyang between Monday and Wednesday and discussed boosting cooperation against spying. During the visit, officials of the Intelligence Bureau and the Ministry of both countries held working-level talks. The two sides discussed further boosting cooperation and briefed each other on the international and regional situation regarding the Korean Peninsula and Russia. The United States on Wednesday announced sanctions on 6 individuals and 2 entities based in Russia, China and the United Arab Emirates, accusing them of channeling funds to North Korea's weapons program. South Korea, a U.S. ally, also imposed sanctions on 4 of the same 6 individuals and the 2 entities. A U.S. Treasury Department statement and South Korea's foreign ministry said the action was taken in coordination between the 2 countries. The entities to be hit with sanctions were Alice LLC based in Vladivostok, Russia, and UAE-based Pioneer Bencont Star Real Estate. The statement said both firms were subordinate to Chinyong Information Technology Cooperation Company, an entity associated with North Korea's armed forces. Shifting focus to Europe now, ambassadors from European Union countries reached a revised deal on Wednesday to extend tariff-free food imports from Ukraine, but with certain restrictions. The agreement now goes to the European Parliament, where diplomats expect a push to add more restrictions. An EU diplomat said that the new deal, which would run until June 2025, was similar to a provisional agreement struck last week, but changed the reference period used to determine when tariffs on some products would be applied. Belgium, which holds the EU's rotating presidency, said that the agreement secured a balanced approach between support for Ukraine and protection of EU agricultural markets. Ukraine and few other countries argue that the imports have little effect on EU markets, but some EU farming groups and countries such as France and Poland had argued that the measures needed to be tightened to avoid making EU agricultural products uncompetitive. And going back to the top story we are discussing here on NewsHour, the ongoing visit by Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. My colleague Amritpal Singh joins us more from New Delhi. Amrit, what will the Ukrainian minister be discussing with his Indian interlocutors?
Ramesh, the Ukrainian minister is primarily here to push for India's participation in a peace conference that Switzerland is organizing in the coming months. In fact, President Zelensky had spoken to Prime Minister Modi when they spoke on the 20th of March, seeking India's support and participation in this peace conference, which is primarily is being organized to look at, one, the peace process with Russia, and second, the reconstruction of a post-war Ukraine. He would be seeking Indian investments. He's meeting he's of course meeting Dr. Jaishankar, the foreign minister, but he's also meeting the Deputy National Security Advisor. He's meeting the Indian business community, primarily looking at, seeking investments for reconstruction and getting the trade back on track. There is also a meeting of the Intergovernmental Commission on Cooperation, which hasn't taken place since 2018. So this would be his engagement with his Indian interlocutors, Ramesh.
Also, Amrit, we are told that this is, as you mentioned there, the first visit by a Ukrainian foreign minister to India in about 7 years, and also the first since the start of the Ukraine-Russia conflict. How would you describe India-Ukraine relations over the past few years?
Well, India has a very friendly relationship with Ukraine since they established diplomatic ties in 1992. After it broke away from the Soviet Union after the disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991. So they've had friendly relations. The trade at its peak was way above $3 billion, though after the war it came down and currently stands at about $2 billion to $2.5 billion. Both imports and exports have come down, but there is a robust cooperation in the fields of science and technology, even in the space sector. Pharmaceuticals, a lot of Indian students study there. About 18,000 Indian students study in Ukraine, primarily doing, enrolling in medical courses. So IT, high-tech, pharmaceuticals, agricultural exports. So there is a robust trade. To the Indian community, there is pretty small, about 1,000 odd Indian community. Apart from the students I'm talking, they are primarily IT professionals or business professionals representing companies there. But it is a friendly relationship, and that has been that's evident in the humanitarian assistance that India has provided to them since the war broke out. About 15 consignments of humanitarian assistance has been provided to them. 9 Foreign Office consultations have taken place. There are efforts afoot to see how India can support the peace process. So I would say it's a rather friendly relationship. Ramesh.
All right, we leave it at that. Amritpal Singh in New Delhi. Thank you for now. Appreciate it. And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Russia casts doubts over perpetrators behind the Moscow concert hall attack, vows to find the true perpetrators amid a call for global anti-terrorism efforts. Bus drivers in South Korea's capital Seoul go on strike after talks on a wage hike break down. And the bodies of at least 2 people recovered after a bridge in the US city of Baltimore collapsed. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. The Moscow concert hall massacre has sparked a blame game, with Russia now saying it was extremely hard to believe that the Islamic State would have had the capacity to launch the attack. It reiterated that Ukraine was behind the attack. The death toll has now risen to 143. 95 people are still missing. Meanwhile, Russia has bolstered its security and is calling for international efforts to combat terrorism. The new security initiatives have led to tangible results, including the detention of a terror suspect in the Samara region, even as an investigation continues to identify the true perpetrators of the attack. The bodies of at least 2 of the 6 people missing after the U.S. bridge collapse have been recovered. Investigations are on to determine the cause of the incident.
New insights into the Baltimore bridge collapse have emerged a day after massive cargo ship Dali lost power and struck a support pylon of Francis Scott Key Bridge. The pilot of the cargo freighter had radioed for tugboat help and reported a power loss minutes earlier. This is according to the ship's black box data recorder. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Homeland said investigation is expected to take between 12 to 24 months.
This bridge was in satisfactory condition. The last fracture critical inspection was in May 2023. We have not been able to go through that inspection and all the documents, but that will occur after we leave the on-scene portion. And so I have no doubt that we will be able to pull this together in hopefully 12 to 24 months.
Divers on Wednesday recovered the remains of 2 of the 6 workers missing since the accident.
Divers recovered two victims of this tragedy trapped within the vehicle. The victims were identified as Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes, 35 years old, of Baltimore, and Dorlian Ranial Castillo Cabrera, 26 years old, of Dundalk.
Divers have been swimming in chilly waters with metal debris from the bridge that fell in the river, but has over 1.5 metric gallons of fuel oil and lube oil on board.
The vessel is stable, but it still has over 1.5 million gallons of fuel oil and lube oil on board. And it does have 4,700 cargo containers on board. 56 of those contain hazardous materials, and 2 are missing overboard.
The economic fallout in the U.S. due to the accident could be staggering.
Economic numbers, about 8,000 jobs we think are directly implicated, and over $100 million of cargo moves in and out of that port a day.
Analysts are also warning the economic impact of a downed bridge could be felt across the globe, with some suggesting it may lead to a temporary increase in prices of coal in India as U.S. producers are forced to find new shipping routes.
President Emmanuel Macron of France has reacted sharply to the troubled talks over a free trade deal between the EU and South American bloc Mercosur. On the last day of his visit to Brazil, Macron called it as a very bad deal and that lacks proper climate considerations. He said the deal is outdated and needs to be reworked. For its part, Brazil has said that it is ready to sign the deal. France has repeatedly expressed reservations on the deal, saying that its farmers have objected to the prospect that could allow in agricultural imports, notably beef, that do not meet the EU standards. Earlier this month, European officials had said that decisive progress was possible by July. The deal will ease trade barriers between the EU and the South American Mercosur bloc, despite growing opposition from France.
I deeply believe that we need to rethink our trade rules in light of this advantage, which is why I prefer to put my foot down in front of this assembly. I have spoken out very forcefully to say that Mercosur, as it is negotiated today, is a very bad agreement. But I think it's a very bad deal for you and for us.
Earlier, the two presidents launched a submarine built in Brazil using French technology in a program that aims to build Brazil's first nuclear-powered submarine by the end of the decade. Presidents Macron and Lula da Silva attended a ceremony in the Itagüí shipyard near Rio de Janeiro to launch the third diesel-powered submarine built in a $10 billion partnership. The submarine program, begun in 2008 during Lula da Silva's previous presidential term, is a partnership with France's state-run Naval Group. Bruised and fractured by Recep Tayyip Erdogan's victory in 2023 general election, Turkey's opposition now aims to land a blow in Sunday's local polls. The nationwide municipal votes on 31st March could reinforce President Erdogan's control after 2 decades running Turkey, or signal a change in the NATO members' deeply divided political landscape. The opposition hopes for transformation, fueled by local election results in 2019 when they defeated Erdogan's AK Party in the main 2 cities of Istanbul and Ankara. The results are likely to be shaped by economic woes, in part driven by rampant inflation, and by Kurdish and Islamist voters weighing up the government's performance and their hopes for political change. A U.S. appeals court denied a bid by Texas to begin enforcing a contentious law that would let state authorities detain those suspected of illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. The law would make it a state crime to illegally enter or re-enter Texas from a foreign country and would empower the state judges to order that violators leave the U.S. The punishment includes prison sentences of up to 20 years for those who refuse to comply. The Republican-backed law met immediate legal pushback from Democratic President Joe Biden's government. The White House says it oversteps the authority of the federal government to enforce immigration laws. In more news from the U.S., in a bid to reduce traffic in Manhattan's Central Business District, reduce pollution and provide critical funding for transit improvements, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority Board voted on Wednesday to approve the toll rates for Manhattan's congestion pricing program, the first of its kind in the U.S. Under the plan, New York City will charge a daily toll of $15 during the day for passenger vehicles driving in Manhattan south of the 60th Street starting in mid-June. It'll charge up to $36 for larger trucks and buses. The plan still faces a number of legal challenges, including from the state of New Jersey. New York City, which has the most congested traffic of any U.S. city, is set to follow London, which implemented a similar charge in the year 2003. Puerto Rico declared a public health emergency on Wednesday following a significant increase in the number of dengue cases on the island. According to the island's health department, at least 549 cases have been reported so far and more than 340 people have been hospitalized. Chief Medical Officer at Puerto Rico's Department of Health says that if these numbers continue to rise, the island's health system could be compromised. Authorities on the island have carried out numerous spraying operations to mitigate the number of mosquitoes. The situation is being monitored. In news from the Indo-Pacific, commuters in South Korea's capital Seoul face a tough time as bus drivers went on strike on Thursday after last-ditch efforts at negotiating a wage hike broke down. DD India's Laura Westbrook reports from Hong Kong.
This is the first strike by bus drivers in Seoul in more than 12 years. The number of buses that are affected are about 7,000 buses are out of commission. That's about 97% of the buses in the city. And this all kicked off at 4 a.m. local time. So that really having that maximum impact on commuters who kind of reportedly some woke up and weren't aware that this strike was taking place. So really having an impact on them. Now, this all stems from a breakdown in negotiations. Apparently, these negotiations were a marathon session. They ran late into the night between the bus driver labor union. They have around 18,000 members and their management. And the union is asking for a 12.7% increase in their hourly wage. Their management dismissed that. They said that that was excessive. They offered a 2.5% wage increase. And that's really when, the negotiations broke down and this strike happened. Now, the Seoul Transport Bureau has stepped in. They said they're going to really try and resolve this on both sides. But in the meantime, Seoul, which has around 9 million people, all those commuters, they're being affected by this strike.
And now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Dozens of anti-mining protesters held a sitting outside Ecuador's capital, Quito, as tensions continue over mining rights. The demonstration took place to oppose government plans to pave the way for the mining of gold, silver and copper. Ecuador has been under a state of emergency since January to quell a wave of gang violence. Thousands joined hands on Wednesday to form a human chain at Nashville in the U.S. state of Tennessee and remember the victims of an elementary school shooting 1 year on. Last March, a 28-year-old former student stormed into the private convent school with rifles and killed 3 9-year-old children along with 3 staff members. The shooting prompted cries for gun control and led to large protests in the state capital. Still to come on DD India News Hour. The 10th edition of India-Seychelles joint military exercise codenamed L'Amitié 24 concludes. Nominations for Phase 2 of India's general election begin. 88 parliamentary constituencies will go to the polls on 26th of April. And Israel Aerospace Industries opens an Indian subsidiary in New Delhi.
Hong Kong passes a draconian national security law. Has democracy died in Hong Kong? Was there a secret weapon behind the mysterious Havana syndrome that shook American diplomacy? And the last decade was the hottest ever. Is our planet on the brink? Watch Connecting the Dots to get the full picture every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Minister of External Affairs, EAM S Jaishankar, says Palestinians have been denied a homeland, underlines the importance of a two-state solution. Israel asks the US to reschedule a meeting on Rafah military plan that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had cancelled after the US did not veto a UN Security Council resolution on Gaza ceasefire. And audio from black box data recorder shows that the pilot of the cargo ship that knocked down a bridge in the US had radioed for help. Divers recovered 2 bodies. Investigation may take up to 2 years. All right, let's now get you the latest on what's happening in India in the run-up to the world's largest democratic election. The nominations for Phase 2 of India's general election have begun. A total of 88 constituencies across 12 states and union territories will go to the polls in the second phase. They are Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jammu and Kashmir, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tripura, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal, apart from the outer Manipur seat. Polling will take place on 26th of April. And my colleague Shubhendu Ghosh joins us for more on this development. Shubhendu, what more can you tell us about the Election Commission notification for Phase 2 of the election?
Well, Ramesh, the focus now is on Phase 2. As you mentioned, there are 88 constituencies going into polls in this phase, the election for which will take place on the 26th of April in the second phase. One more if we count a part of Manipur constituency as well. So it's 88 plus 1. Technically, the scrutiny of these, the nominations will be filed. The last date would be April 4th. And then what will follow would be a scrutiny of these nomination papers by the Election Commission, which will take place on the 5th. And one more day, 6th, for Jammu and Kashmir. And after that, everyone goes into the elections which take place on the 26th, the second phase. As you mentioned, the states going into the polls in this phase, Ramesh, if we look at the constituencies, they're on a geography of India, they're fairly well spread. In the north, we have the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu constituency would be going for the polls in this particular phase. In the west, you have Rajasthan, the important states of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh as well. If you look at the east, there is Assam and West Bengal. Down south, you have Kerala and some constituencies of Karnataka. Kerala, mind you, is going to be going into the Phase 2 elections. All the constituency of Kerala are going to be going into polls, the 20 of them located in Kerala. Bihar, Bengal and Uttar Pradesh, we understand, are going to be participating in the polling exercise for the longest duration across all 7 phases. So right now the focus is on filing of the nominations by the political parties
Indeed.
For Phase 2 and Phase 1 campaigning is gaining momentum today. Focus has been on Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Ramesh?
Now, among the states, Shubhendu, going to the polls would be Uttar Pradesh, as you mentioned just now. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is among the ruling BJP's star campaigners. As for the opposition Congress party, it's still to announce a candidate for the Amethi and Rai Bareli seats. Fill us in on the latest developments as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned.
Well, it's a huge for viewers who are watching us and want an insight into the politics of India. Uttar Pradesh is a hugely important state. They say that the road to power in Delhi goes through the state of Uttar Pradesh. Well, we look at the figure, Uttar Pradesh sends 80 MPs, member of parliaments, into the parliament, 80 seats in the Lok Sabha polls out of 543. That's nearly 15%. So anyone, any party eyeing for power in the center would be looking to scoop the seats in Uttar Pradesh. And that is what BJP and Alliance have done in the past couple of editions. In 2014 and in 2019, they scooped the bulk of the seats were taken by the alliance of the BJP. Now, what is interesting is also that 2 particular seats that you mentioned, Amethi and Rai Bareli, Congress this time, in alliance with Samajwadi Party, is fighting the general elections in Uttar Pradesh. It's contesting on 17 seats. It has declared candidates for all 15 seats, but not 2. And those 2 seats are Rai Bareli and Amethi. Since 1967, for decades, this has been seen as a Nehru Congress bastion, always a leader from this group contesting, from the family contesting and usually winning the elections from Rai Bareli or Amethi, but that has changed in the recent past. We know Rahul Gandhi lost the prestigious Amethi seat to BJP leader Smriti Irani in 2019, and then he had to go to Wayanad to be elected from there. And Sonia Gandhi, Congress leader, has decided not to contest Lok Sabha elections again from Rai Bareli. So technically, both these seats are vacant. There's been a lot of speculation about Priyanka Gandhi taking the Rai Bareli seat from her mother, but officially no announcement has been made. This has also been seen as a confusion on the part of the Congress, which has not declared the 2 most important seats in the crucial state.
All right, we'll leave it at that, Shubhendu. Thank you. That was my colleague Shubhendu Ghosh reporting on the latest insofar as the Indian elections are concerned. Now, today is the last day of filing of nominations for the first phase of polls in the northern Indian state of Bihar. Prominent candidates of national and regional political parties have filed their nominations in Gaya, Nevada, Aurangabad and Jamui for the 19th April Lok Sabha election. Lok Janshakti Ram Vilas, led by Chirag Paswan, fielded Arun Bharti from Jamui constituency, while in Gaya, former Bihar Chief Minister Jitan Ram Manjhi will be the National Democratic Alliance's candidate. He'll be taking on RJD candidate Kumar Sarvajit. In Nevada, BJP has fielded Vivek Thakur, a Rajya Sabha member. On to the Maharashtra campaign updates. A Mahavikas Aghadi Alliance meeting is being held in the port city of Mumbai on Thursday. Senior leaders from the Indian National Congress, the NCP and the Shiva Sena are taking part in it. Shiva Sena lawmaker Sanjay Raut said that the primary focus of the meeting will be on joint rallies, campaigns and a common minimum program. And my colleague Shishir Shelar joins us from Mumbai for more. Shishir, trouble brewing for the opposition alliance in the state already?
Well, absolutely. If you look at the situation at this point in time in Maharashtra, the opposition alliance, the India alliance, seems quite in a difficult situation because the allied partners are actually not in talking terms with them. That's what we've got to know. Well, yesterday when the Shiv Sena have announced their list, we've heard that how Congress has become so aggressive, and even the NCP has also passed a comment that this is not a right thing, that in spite of in communication and in talks with the other allied partners, how can Shiv Sena, the Sanjay Uddhav Balatype Thackeray party announce a candidature in some of the seats where the discussion is still going on? And that's the reason these contentious issues will definitely be one of the worrisome factor for the India alliance in Maharashtra. But this is not just one thing here. The other important aspect, of course, the Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi, which was supposed to be part of the India alliance, today have stated that some of the political partners in the India alliance is not interested to include Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi, and that's the reason the Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi alliance partners have not called, the India alliance have not called Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi for today's meeting, which is being convened here in Mumbai, and that's the reason the Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi seems at this point in time quite uninterested to join this alliance. Well, apart from that, we've also got the news about how some of the candidatures is not happy on this alliance, and that's the reason even the Shiv Sena camp is also facing this kind of trouble, where some of the seats have gone to the other allied partners. Even the Congress is not happy with the way Shiv Sena has announced a candidature in Mumbai and Sangli Lok Sabha seat. So obviously these are the important aspects that the entire India alliance in Maharashtra has to tackle, and that's the reason this meeting has been convened. Although the spokesperson of the Uddhav Balatype Thackeray Shiv Sena, Sanjay Raut, has recently said that this meeting is convened just to decide about the campaigning and the minimum program. It's not about the seat sharing. That's what he said in today's morning when we interacted with the media here. But the question still arises here that what exactly next and further step of the MVA in Maharashtra to tackle all this issue and sorted out the seat sharing formula.
All right, on that note, Shishir, thank you for your updates. That was my colleague Shishir Shelar reporting from Mumbai. Now, in the latest list of Lok Sabha candidates by the Congress party, Ajay Rai has been given the ticket from Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, while former Minister Pradeep Jain Aditya has been given the ticket from Jhansi. But Supriya Srinath, the national spokesperson of the Congress from Maharajganj, has been dropped. The party has made Virendra Chaudhary its candidate from Maharajganj. Srinath had made controversial comments against BJP candidate Kangana Ranawat from the Mandi seat of Himachal Pradesh. Now, conducting a general election in a country of India's size is quite literally a Himalayan task. To ensure seamless electoral process, the Election Commission of India appoints observers. Our next report tells you more about the duties of an observer.
Conducting elections in a country with a population of over 1.4 billion is not an easy task. To ensure checks and balances in the electoral process, the Election Commission of India, the country's election regulator, appoints government officials as observers during polls to oversee the process and ensure fairness. They work under the ECI. The observers are divided into 4 categories: general, police, expenditure, and counting. General and police observers oversee polling stations to make sure that they have necessary infrastructure, support, and facilities. They also scrutinize candidates' nomination, apart from ensuring effective implementation of the Model Code of Conduct. a set of guidelines laid down by the ECI for candidates contesting elections. Expenditure observers keep an eye on the book of accounts of candidates and monitor spending by them during campaigns. Currently, the expenditure limit for general election candidates in constituencies in bigger states is nearly $9 million, while for smaller states it's $7 million. As the name suggests, counting observers supervise the counting process. Apart from their specific duties, observers also address grievances and complaints of the candidates related to the polling process. Their task involves submitting timely reports to the Election Commission, which can also be done using the poll body's observer portal. The contact details of observers are published in local newspapers so that the public can also approach them for any poll-related issues. Observers play a major role in boosting the confidence of the stakeholders by making the system more transparent.
In other news, the Delhi High Court has dismissed a plea seeking to remove Chief Minister of Delhi Arvind Kejriwal as he is under ED custody in a liquor policy case. During the hearing, the court asked under which law Kejriwal is obligated to resign from the post of Chief Minister. The court ruled that there may be practical difficulties in running a government from custody, but there is no need for the court to intervene or interfere. Meanwhile, Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has been produced at Delhi's Rouse Avenue Court as his custody in the liquor policy case ends today. The Central Bureau of Investigation is also to seek for Kejriwal's remand in connection with the investigation. The Enforcement Directorate on Thursday began questioning 4 people, including AAP Goa President Amit Palekar, in connection with a Prevention of Money Laundering Act case. The ED had summoned 4, including Palekar, AAP leader Ram Rao Wagh, and 2 others, Datta Prasad Naik and Ashok Naik. Datta Prasad and Ashok are the leaders of the Bhandari community of Goa. All the 4 are allegedly connected to a Delhi excise scam in which several AAP leaders, including Arvind Kejriwal, have been arrested. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Japan's financial agencies are ready for intervention after the yen falls to a 34-year low. And in the IPL, Rajasthan Royals to clash with Delhi Capitals in Jaipur.
A draconian national security law. Has democracy died in Hong Kong? Was there a secret weapon behind the mysterious Havana syndrome that shook American diplomacy? And the last decade was the hottest ever. Is our planet on the brink? Watch Connecting the Dots to get the full picture every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Always welcome.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. And now to some business news. Japanese financial agencies said on Thursday that they are ready for a possible intervention in the market following a 34-year record low fall of the yen. The Bank of Japan, Finance Ministry and Japan's Financial Services Agency held a meeting for a discussion on a possible intervention in the market. The Bank of Japan released a report of their March meeting on Thursday, underscoring a preference to move slowly in future interest rate hikes. China's President Xi Jinping met with Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena in Beijing on Wednesday, with the two discussing bilateral ties. Xi assured continuous political and socio-economic support to Sri Lanka. He also said that Beijing will stand for safeguarding the island nation's territorial integrity and sovereignty. In an official statement by Beijing, China and Sri Lanka agreed to continue their friendship with peace, mutual respect and without interference in each other's internal affairs. Earlier, Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang promised to assist Sri Lanka's debt restructuring process and contribute to its economic development. But some Chinese projects have faced criticism for exacerbating Sri Lanka's economic woes, with experts labeling them as white elephant projects. The debt restructuring of the island's external loans is yet to be completed, as China had joined the official creditors committee as only an observer, with other creditors insisting on a comparable treatment in the terms of restructuring. And now to all the news from the world of sport with my colleague Deepika. Deepika, over to you.
Thanks and good afternoon, Ramesh. Let's quickly take our viewers through what's happening first up from the world of cricket, where in the IPL or the Indian Premier League, Rajasthan Royals will clash tonight with Delhi Capitals in Jaipur. Rajasthan Royals won their first game by defeating Lucknow Super Giants by 20 runs. Rajasthan Royals will be now keen on maintaining their winning run. RR or Rajasthan Royals under Sanju Samson has been one of the most formidable teams on paper, whereas on the other hand, Delhi Capitals lost their first game of the tournament to Punjab Kings. Delhi Capitals, which is currently led by Rishabh Pant, who returned to the cricket pitch after his horrific incident back in December 2022, where he met with an accident, will aim for its first victory this season. Now, both the teams have played 27 matches against each other. Rajasthan Royals have won 14, while Delhi Capitals have come up trumps in 13 encounters in IPL. Well, the match between Mumbai Indians and Sunrisers Hyderabad broke the record for the most sixes hit in a game in the Indian Premier League. SRH smashed 18 sixes in its innings, where it put up a daunting 277 for 3, while Mumbai Indians slammed 20 maximums in its run chase to set the record. The previous best in the tournament was 33 sixes recorded during Royal Challengers Bengaluru's match against Chennai Super Kings in 2018 and Rajasthan Royals game against Chennai Super Kings in 2021. RCB's match against CSK in 2023 also tallied 33 sixes combined between the two sides. On to football, Chelsea and Lyon advanced to their respective semi-finals at UEFA's Women's Champions League. Now, while this victory has kept the hope of quadruple alive for Team Chelsea, on the other hand, it's a massive victory for French champions Lyon 2 against Benfica. Here's the report.
In Women's Champions League, Chelsea women have successfully kept their quadruple dream alive as they enter their second successive semi-final, defeating Ajax. Myra Ramirez's first goal in Europe opened the scoring in West London with just over half an hour gone. However, Ajax arrived in England with a point to prove after their 3-0 thrashing, and despite the mountain to climb, the visitors made a compelling contest of it. But ultimately, Emma Hayes' hopes of going out on the ultimate high at Chelsea moved a step closer on Wednesday as the London club reached Women's Champions League semi-finals after a 1-1 draw with Ajax. On the other hand, French champion Lyon also advanced to the semi-finals for a record 13th time after a 4-1 victory over Benfica. Delphine Casacarino and Cadiatro Dieni scored 2 goals each as record 8-time champions Lyon won by 6-2 on aggregate basis at Groupama Stadium after a 2-1 first leg victory in Portugal. Lyon was playing in the quarter-finals for a record equaling 15th time, while Benfica became the first Portuguese team to advance to this stage. The home and away semi-finals will now be played on the 20th and 21st of April and the 27th and 28th of April. Sports Desk, DD India.
On to tennis. Tonight, Rohan Bopanna and his Australian teammate Matthew Ebden will take on Spain's Marcel Granollers and Horacio Zeballos in men's doubles category at the semi-finals of the Miami Open. Now, this is the third semi-final for Rohan and Matthew this year, beating Sam Verbeek and John Patrick in the quarter-finals of the Miami Open. The duo had won the Australian Open earlier in the year. Meanwhile, in women's singles category, finalists of the last edition and fourth-seeded Elena Rybakina will take on Belarusian tennis player Victoria Azarenka in the semi-final. Elena Rybakina and Victoria are the first semi-finalists of the current ongoing season. Rybakina has won each of her previous meetings against Azarenka so far. Whereas in men's singles, Yannick Sinner rolled past Thomas Macau by 6-4 and 6-2 to make it to the semi-finals of the Miami Open, where he will face Russian Daniil Medvedev in a tantalizing rematch of the Australian Open super finale. Third seed Medvedev booked his place in the last four with a 6-2, 7-6 victory over Nicolas Jarry. The opening set of the first quarterfinal, played in humid conditions, hinged on Macau's service game at 3-3, where the unseeded Czech's forehand missed its target on break points to give Sinner a 4-3 lead. The Italian went on to wrap up the set with a love hold when Macau was unable to put up a second serve back in play. In the second set, Macau's forehand sailed long to give Sinner the break and a 2-1 lead as well. Now, Sinner broke again with a backhand winner for 4-1 and closed out the contest with a serve out wide with Macau that could not return. Now, Sinner, who was the finalist at the tournament in 2021 and 2023, produced 16 winners to 4 unforced errors in a stress-free victory. Danielle Collins boosted her hopes of winning a title in her farewell season of the unseeded American beat French 23rd seed Caroline Garcia by 6-3, 6-2 to make it to the semi-finals of the ongoing Miami Open. Collins, who announced in January that she would retire from professional tennis at the end of the season, won nearly 90% of her first serve points against Garcia, never faced a break point, and also converted 3 of her 8 break point chances. The victory also marked the first time that Collins has won 5 consecutive matches on the WTA Tour since the 2022 Australian Open, where she reached her first Grand Slam finale as well. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Ramesh.
Thank you, Deepika. And before we close, in Croatia, artists took several days to paint giant egg-shaped pieces as part of an Easter local tradition, which also pays homage to the naive school of painting of Labine. The pieces, some of which measure up to 2 meters high, are now on display in the streets of the nearby city of Koprivnica. Some of the pieces will be shown in places as far as New York City in the United States and other European cities. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.